Welcome to Let's Talk Computer Science. I'm your host, Sandhya Padala, CEO of Rex Academy. Rex Academy is a one-stop solution for computer science. Joining me in this week's episode is Wren Hoffman. Wren is a highly educated professional with a wealth of experience in teaching, with a passion for computer science and coding. She has taught courses in both web design and computer programming. She is currently the script implementation manager at CSforAll. The company's mission is to ensure that all students in K-12 have access to a high quality computer science education. Prior to joining CSforAll, Hoffman worked as the computer science state lead for the Iowa Department of Education, where she organized and ran the statewide computer science leadership team. Wow. She also developed content and materials for Iowa eLearning Central. Ren, we're so excited to have you on our show. Let's talk computer science.
Thanks, Sandy. It's great to be here.
Wow. I am really super impressed. I'm really excited to talk to you. So, tell us more about your background. How did you get to where you are today?
Sure. So it started, my path to computer science started when I was a child. It began with my dad, actually. He is an electrical engineer and did software development. And he brought home a computer for us to play with, I guess. I'm sure it was for work mostly, but we got to play with it too. And he had a modem. And, 45 years ago, he would take the phone receiver and plug it into the modem, and he would work from home. And I thought my dad had the coolest job in the world, that he could use a computer from home to work. And I hoped that someday I'd get to do, he was my role model. And then in high school, I took my first computer programming class, and I was the only girl, which didn't bother me at the time. Didn't think much of it, but had a great time. And then in college, decided to minor in computer science. It was natural for me. It was easy. I was good at it. But I didn't think I wanted to sit in a cubicle and code. And I thought that's what computer science was. And I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't have anyone to go to ask questions to about this. It was just, there weren't role models and people like me out in the field, and people like you talking about this. And then in my teacher preparation program, they asked what content area I wanted to focus on, because I was secondary. And I said, computer science. And they said, well, that's not a thing. Well, but that's what I want to teach. But so anyway, several years later, I was teaching at a high school and started a computer science program there, and was teaching web design, like you said, and computer programming, and had an AP CSA class, and started with a small group of boys, and over 10 years built it to a full multiple sections of each class, and had girls and some special needs students and students of color, and really made the program, it was something students talked about. So it was really exciting. And then worked as a technology coordinator at my high school for a few years. And then came across a job for the Department of Education, computer science state lead that you mentioned, and thought, what a perfect job. I built a program at my high school, and now I get an opportunity to help districts and schools across the state build a program, and offer that for their students. And so I built a network of people. I brought leaders together from across the state, in that leadership team, and to help guide the work that we were doing. Built some professional learning around the state standards, and during my conversations with colleagues in other states, I was told, if you get a chance, check out Script. It will change the way computer science works in your state. And so I did. I had the opportunity to check out Script, which CSforAll is it's their baby. And it really, I got to see districts working through what computer science meant to them. And it just lit me up. And so got to work with some folks in the area education agencies here in the state. And we were able to get trained as Script facilitators and offer Script to our districts. And it was exciting to see districts having these conversations and working through what it means to have computer science and what it will look like for their students. And then CSforAll posted the position, and I thought, okay, this is the next logical step for me. So now I get to move from working with one state to helping schools nationwide to ensure high quality computer science education for all their students. And so, going from being the only girl in a program in high school to feeling isolated as a female high school computer science teacher to now working with folks from across the nation who all have the same goal as me is so exciting.
Yep. Yes. So I'm really curious. Can you please tell us about your current work as a Script CS manager? Walk us through a typical workday.
Sure. So the Script implementation manager, well, first, Script stands for Strategic CSforAll Resource and Implementation Planning Tool. And so luckily they came up with the acronym for Script for all that mouthful. But what it is it's a framework to have districts do some collaborative visioning, self-reflection, and goal-setting activities that helps them develop a K through 12 computer science implementation plan. And so my job as the Script implementation manager is to oversee the development and implementation and expansion of Script. And that includes things like training facilitators to deliver Script workshops, maintaining and updating training and workshop materials, supporting facilitators as they work with districts, checking in with districts to see how they're progressing and if they need anything, and then connecting with new people who maybe know about Script but don't know what it is or how to get started. And so with all those pieces, what's exciting about my job, one of the things is that there is no typical day. So there are days where I am leading facilitator training or district workshops. The next day I might be talking with someone from a state where Script isn't present and getting to kind of talk them through what Script's all about and how to bring it to their state. I might be working with a cohort of, as we train facilitators, they get trained in cohorts. And so we might work with a cohort to check in and help provide them additional support so that when they're working with districts, they've got all the tools they need and they can bring their best game. And then sometimes I get the opportunity to sit in on district conversations, who are talking about what their next step is, their 3-month goals, their 6-month goals. So every day is a little different. But really the big picture is to support districts and ensure that computer science is equitable and inclusive. And I'm always looking for ways to ensure that facilitators and districts have what they need.
So how long does it take for a Script workshop for a school district, like an average school district size? I know every school district is different.
Well, the workshop itself is generally 1 to 2 days, but the workshop is really just step one. of a process, and we walk them through. So we host the workshop. The workshop is hosted, and then they set goals for themselves for 3 months, 6 months, and then long-term goals. And so it could be a 5-year process, a 2-year process. It depends, because every district, like you said, is different. They're all starting from a different point. Some districts have nothing, and they're interested in starting for one reason or another. And there's other districts who have classes that are offered maybe at all the levels, but it's not aligned, and there's not a cohesive plan. It might be these 3 teachers are responsible for it. And what we know is individual teachers can't sustain computer science for the district. It needs to be a district and a team effort, because those teachers, if you've got one teacher in a 2nd grade classroom who's implementing or integrating computer science into their work, those students are, lucky them. But then if there's nothing happening at the 3rd grade or the 4th grade, but maybe there's something happening in 5th grade, these students are missing out. Some students are getting it, some students aren't. They might be getting the same information every time. So it really depends where they're coming from and how much of a foundation they already have to determine how quickly they'll move to the next step.
So how was it going? Like, how was the country receiving it? How are the schools receiving it? Are they jumping at this opportunity? How is everything going? Or are there laws that are forcing them to do it? How is it like?
That's a great question. And it is all of those things. There are states where computer science is being required at every grade level. Some states are requiring it for graduation. Other states aren't requiring it, but they have standards. But so all the states are in a different point. But what's so exciting is when we go to when there's professional learning opportunities out there, and someone says, "Oh, you got to check out Script," and someone says, "Well, what's Script?" And so the word gets spread. But there are, I think there are about 35 states that have Script opportunities within them. But we are in conversation with about 8 other states who are interested in bringing it to their state. And so as states look to move forward with computer science, the National Governors Association has made it a priority for them to move computer science forward. And so as governors and states look to bring computer science to their state and accelerate what's happening for students and give students that opportunity, more and more states are asking questions.
Yep, that's very interesting. That's really good to know. So who are the typical folks from school side in your Script workshops?
Well, when we host a workshop, we ask for districts to bring at least 4 people. We ask for them to bring a district administrator who can see the K-12 perspective. And we ask for a building leader, because that perspective of actually running a building is a lot more detailed. We ask for a computer science educator or someone who will be teaching computer science to help keep that lens on what high quality computer science instruction will look like. And then another staff person, either instructional or non, who might be, it might be a librarian, it might be a special ed teacher. It could be a variety of people, but we ask for those 4 people at a minimum. And we ask for people from across the grade band. So we want representation at K-5, 6-8, and 9-12, so that the conversation really is a K through 12 alignment conversation. But we have teams that are, we have districts that are really large that bring a lot more people than 4, and it really depends. But we try to make sure that all the voices and perspectives are present.
So why an instructional person?
Because they bring in that perspective of so a librarian works with students. In some schools, library time is when computer science is offered,
Right.
but it's a totally different perspective than the classroom teacher, or the special education teacher brings in that lens of the students who might be pulled out, or how do we ensure, because we want to ensure that computer science is for all, how do we make sure that those students that are being pulled out um, for math support or different things, that their needs are being met as well.
Yep. Yeah. Thank you. This makes sense. So, can you please describe any computer science programs or initiatives that have been implemented or currently in the works to increase computer science education? And what are your goals as a CS manager for next couple of years on how to increase computer science education?
CSforAll has a bunch of great programs in the works, but there's three I want to mention. One of them, two of them are pretty new. One of them is brand new. It's called the Accelerator, and it is a community-based effort to advance computer science education. So working with all the levers within a community, not just a school. Another one is CS4Ed, which is about the teacher pipeline. And so you mentioned earlier about, whether states are requiring computer science, things like that. And there are a lot of states setting policy, adopting standards, making requirements. Like I mentioned, maybe they're providing funding, but almost half our schools in the country don't offer computer science. So what do we do about that? Well, teachers are getting, in-service teachers are getting professional development to up their game and provide the necessary knowledge they need to turn around and offer computer science to their students. But what we need is to provide those incoming teachers a foundation, so that computer science and computational thinking is just part of what they do. It's that base foundation, like reading and math. So CS4Ed is about working with teacher prep programs to help ensure that computer science and computational thinking is part of, like I said, part of the work they do to get ready to be a classroom teacher. And then the third program I want to mention is called Script Crew Tennessee, and it's close to my heart because it involves script. And what it is it's a $1 million National Science Foundation grant that will last 3 years. And it involves, there's three organizations that are involved. It's CSforAll, Code Crew in Tennessee, and csedresearch.org. And it is a research practitioner partnership. And the plan, what we are doing is using the script framework to impact up to 45% of Tennessee districts by helping district leaders advance computer science education. And we have scheduled our first script facilitator training and district workshop for February 2nd through 4th. And so we're really excited to kick this off and really bring Tennessee into that script family that we talked about. All those states that are offering offering script, we're adding Tennessee to that list.
Awesome. That's really great. So my next question is a little bit long. So like you have touched on this, like unlike other subjects like English, math, computer science is ever changing and requires one to keep updated on the latest trends, like the teachers. Like they're always changing the trends, technologies, and even within a programming language, it keeps on upgrading the versions. And computer science also encompasses a wide range of topics Because there's software development, there's cybersecurity, there's AI, especially since you studied computer science, you can understand it's vast. In addition, like many computer science teachers do not have a background in computer science. Or so in these situations, do you think teachers can benefit from having support from a technical expert, like more like a live support, like a help desk kind of, they can call when they need?
And that is a great concept. I'm going to answer the question by telling you about my own experience. When I was teaching AP Computer Science A, I had a student that would come in, I'm not going to say every day, but 2 to 3 times a week, he would come in with a question that I couldn't answer. He
Right.
knew more about computer science than I did. And I would spend my free periods and my evenings trying to figure out answers. Sometimes I was successful and had answers. And sometimes the next day he would come in and say, well, here's the answer. I looked it up on my, he didn't have a phone back then, but I looked it up when I got home. And it was doing all that work benefited me. I still learned a lot, but how great would it have been for me to have someone I could go to and share that question with to get information? I also had an opportunity when I was teaching to be part of an after-school program where there was a web design firm that came in and led, co-taught a web design after-school program. And while we were teaching, I was learning along with them with the goal of being able to hand off the reins so that I would lead the program 100% the following year. And those two opportunities really showed me how important that, even with a computer science background, there's so much I didn't know. And so a technical expert would be a great partner for a teacher. So many times computer science teachers feel isolated and alone. And many of these teachers don't have the computer science background. So there's so many different kinds of partners that can benefit a computer science teacher. From a partner where a teacher might do an externship, they might go into an organization and work for a summer and learn more about maybe cybersecurity or AI. And then they can bring that knowledge and that partnership back to their classroom. They might partner with a local business, or like you mentioned, a technical expert. But having someone for that teacher to rely on or lean on, so they aren't feeling like they don't know anything.
Yeah. The stress that comes with it, right?
Right. But it's such a big ask when you try to figure out, well, I need help. Who do I turn to? Who do I ask? Where do I go? And so I think there are two great resources for educators who want that partner, whether it's a technical expert or something more like an externship. And one of those things is the CSforAll member directory is a great place to start. There are hundreds of organizations that are available for people to go to, from researchers to providers to other districts that are resources, as well as your CSTA local chapter, where educators come together and talk about, get professional learning, but also talk about the things that they're doing. So who are they using as a partner? Who are they going to as a technical expert? Or is this a new idea? And instead of going at it alone, you have a group of people to figure this out with. And what I know is that people want to help. Technical experts, people in the field, organizations that do computer science want to support educators, but they don't know how and they don't know what's needed. So educators, it's a big step for educators, but for them to go and ask for help, there's always someone there willing to help. We just need to figure out what it is we need.
Yep, it totally makes sense. Like when I was also teaching AP Computer Science, for like 8 kids. And all these kids, they chose themselves to be in this class because they can do it. Right? Like even with that smart kids and me having Java, I was a Java developer in industry. Even with all that background, I used to struggle like debugging a student's code. So I had to make a choice. Should I help the student and make everyone wait, or should I just ignore the student and move on with the class? So it's a hard place to be in for computer science teachers. Like if there is an external help, I would have moved on that kid to that help and check on the help once in a while.
Right.
Yeah. So my next question is about the teachers. You've touched on this a little bit. So finding qualified educators to teach computer science is becoming a challenge for many schools across the country, as you have stated several times. Should schools consider hiring remote CS teachers to address this shortage?
So this is such an interesting question, I think, because teachers are stretched so much right now. And with the climate of schools and things going on in the country, teaching is a tough job anyway. But more than ever, they're being asked to do more. And so when the administrator walks into the faculty meeting and says, okay, I need someone to add computer science to their teaching load, everyone shrinks down in their chair because they don't have the foundation, they don't have the knowledge. And so, like you mentioned, and I mentioned before, that teacher prep programs like the CS4Ed program that CSforAll is working on is so important to give teachers that foundation. So it isn't so scary for them to add computer science to what they do. And then the other piece of that is the script framework for districts to go through script instead of it being one teacher who's going to be responsible for teaching computer science. It becomes building wide, district wide. But while they're doing that, while we're waiting for that, we don't want students to miss out on the opportunity of computer science. And so while we're building a sustainable system-wide computer science program, we may need to reach out to remote teachers to fill that gap. What I think is important is that in order for it to be sustainable, the district has to be able to stand on its own 2 feet eventually. But the computer science offers those foundational skills and experiences that all students need. So while a district is figuring it out, what can we do to support those students?
Mm-hmm.
If we bring in a remote teacher, or I know there's other districts that have and states that have allowed for certification of industry professionals who want to come in and teach. So filling that gap one way or another, I think a remote teacher is an excellent short-term opportunity.
Yep, totally makes sense. So I know CSforAll has a lot of resources. So any thoughts on ideal solutions for resources that are needed in this space?
So resources are one of those things where teachers can't seem to have enough resources. They're always looking for the right resource, something that's going to meet their needs. And computer science has a jetpack. It is moving so fast, and new curriculum, new materials, new tools are coming out all the time. And so how do you keep track of all them? How do you figure out what you need? How do you figure out if option B is any better than what you already have? And I think the first step in that resource question is knowing what's out there. And so CSforAll has a project called Align CS, which is a curriculum directory where providers can submit their curriculum and align it to the K-12 CS framework, and they are independently reviewed by teachers. So teachers who are looking for resources, or districts that are looking for resources, can go to this directory, and it's a starting point, because you can Google it. You can Google CS resources, but if you're looking for something specific for grades K through 2, or something around the impacts of computing. The curriculum directory that CSforAll hosts helps you search for things that are really specific to what you need. And I think that is one of the difficulties, is filtering through everything. Like I said, there are so many resources and options available that it's, word of mouth is helpful. Again, that CSTA local chapter is a great way. Well, what are you using? What do you do? But teachers who can come away with something, my friends that are still in the classroom tell me teachers want something they can walk away with and turn around and use it the next day. And sometimes the resources are bigger than that, and they aren't just, you can't just turn around and use them. But there is so much out there. So having a system, having a place that almost indexes them is really, I think, the direction that works.
Yep, totally makes sense. So any final words?
A few things. I think one of them, and I've alluded to this, is that teachers can't do this alone. They need a team. A lot of times there is an advocate in a building and working hard, recruiting students, pushing for it. But if it's only happening in one classroom or one grade level, or there's one class at the high school, we aren't serving all the students' needs. And one advocate can't do it without the help of building leaders and district leaders. Another thing is that as a teacher, you're not alone. I felt alone and I didn't know who to turn to. And I'm telling you that there are lots of places that are out there to help. And if you don't know who to turn to, email me. I'm Wren at CSforAll.org, and I'll help you get connected to someone if you don't know who to turn to. And then people think CS is for certain students, those students, boys, gamers. And I would respond to that with, we don't know who CS will appeal to. I had students in my class that surprised me when they walked in the door. I thought, you're interested in computer science? Awesome. Win. But because computer science is fun and it's creative and students need it to navigate the world we live in, and because we need computer science for innovation, we don't know if a student who's interested in medicine is going to walk through our door and turn their dream into something that involves computer science. And so if we ask students, what problem in the world do you want to solve? And then we teach them computer science, we give them the tools to solve those problems.
Yep. Yes. Thank you for giving your email, and every word you said is golden. It makes sense.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time, Wren, today.
Thank you for having me.